Joseph Jaffe is not famous. I'm kind of famous. I'm Jerry Springer. And Jaffe is no host. He'd be lucky to be in my audience, let alone on my show. Well, maybe he's crazy enough to be on my show. I take that back. And that's not a good thing.
Am I being overconfident? Am I becoming complacent about complacency?
I think you are.
Oh, he's not the Messiah. He's just a very naughty boy.
Yeah, I've got big ears.
Brian doesn't want to see anyone else. Piss off.
That's the one. Because you literally complete me, and we complete each other.
You've obviously encountered discrimination in your own life by virtue of being Australian.
Hey, Manuel Kemp was a real pissant who was very rarely stable.
I don't want to get too gushy, but I might just be saying you complete me, Dean. P&G now stands for Pritchard and Good.
Branding is not a bad blind date.
Look at you! You are insane!
How did I do that?
You're
How
insane!
did I do that?
You're insane!
Well, hello everybody. This is a special episode of the show. Joseph Jaffe is not famous, but normally I would say, but my next guest is, maybe was, always will be. We're here to pay tribute and honor an amazing man, John Durham, who I used to call Professore. Professore for me was, I don't know, I got it from Silence of the Lambs or one of the sequels. But he was the professor. He was literally a professor. He taught marketing. How lucky were his students? He taught all of us, and he continues to teach even after his passing. So, you know, this is not about, the show is not about me, and this specific show is definitely not about me. If you knew John and you want to come on the show and you want to eulogize him, pay tribute to him, maybe talk a little bit about how you met, what impact he had on your life, please do that. There is a website, not a website, but certainly this URL, streamyard.com/blah, blah, blah, blah. You can actually type that in and come on the show. Obviously, if I know you, you're on the show. If I don't know you, then you can hang out and backstage. But this show will be driven at the end of the day by you guys, and just talking about the life and times of one John Durham. So I wanted to do a couple of things as we wait for people to join, and I see Mr. Kevin Ryan is in the green room right now. Kevin, we made sure that there were only red M&Ms as per your requirement. Speaking of red M&Ms, you know, one of the things that John and I love to do was talk about English football. Go figure. How on earth, you know, did John Durham discover not just English football, but I will not say the name, except to say that I support Tottenham Hotspur. And if you look in the background, that is a championship, a soccer ball signed by the entire team when we made the Champions League for the first time. Spurs' arch enemy was the team that John Durham supported. And you know, I used to love ragging him and tagging him and giving him a hard time. It was probably the only time in my entire life that there was any form of negativity or, you know, bad vibes, not even bad vibes, but with our relationship, because even when we were discussing politics or discussing controversial things, there was just joy associated with it. I just loved talking with him, debating with him, And we really did see the same side of the coin on almost everything, except for our English football teams as well. So we're going to go through a bunch of things today. I thought maybe what I would do, and Kevin, you'll be up first. But one of the things when John was on my show, he was on my show and I was able to find the clip. I always create a 1-minute soundbite from my guest. He was on the show back in July 7th of 2020. Wow, such a long time ago. I can't believe it. But this was the clip, the 1-minute highlight, which I just wanted to share with you. The mind of man, his brain and nerves are a truer index of his age than the calendar. If you would keep young, be cheerful, keep working, and love one another. A man is not old until regrets take the place of dreams. Do you have any regrets?
I spend absolutely no time. I think, regrets is what an incredible waste of energy. Because number one, the shoulda, coulda, woulda game. Why do you want to play it? You only get yourself stressed out. I wonder sometimes, did I make the right choices? What if? But I didn't. I don't spend time thinking about it. It's just not worth it because you can't change it. Just a couple of people that I read, one of which is Thomas Wolfe, and his novel, You Can't Go Home Again, is so true. You can't go home. At some point, you can't.
I guess I have a regret. My regret is I didn't get to talk to him one more time, just one more time. And I went and found our last email together. And that is a regret. I just wish I'd had one more conversation with him, one more moment. And it is an opportunity for us just to remember that every relationship that we have in our lives, every one that means something to us, don't put off for tomorrow what you can do today in terms of having that conversation, in terms of maximizing the time. Whenever I was in San Francisco, I would try and see him, and often ships passing in the night. I know he was in New York recently. I wish I'd spent that time with him. But this isn't about regrets; it's about celebration. So, Kevin, as soon as you come off video and I can see you on camera, I'm going to bring you on and let you talk about John. I'm wondering if maybe Kevin doesn't feel his camera ready. Cecilia, you are breaking my heart. She said, "I love that session with John. So much wisdom shared." I know, and I'm absolutely good vibes all the way. I'm absolutely going to go back and watch that episode of the show again and again and again. I wanted to just remind you that if you want to, I'm going to actually put the link of the show below. If you want to, that should be on YouTube right now in the comments section. But if you want to come on and talk about John, we would love you to come on so you can see less of me and hear less of me, and everyone can see more of you. Kevin, hello, my friend. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, man. I really I'm really enjoying the walk down amnesia lane at this point. It's good stuff. There's so many people that have I think stepped up to. I mean, there's one initiative to people are just translating the Durhamisms. And I know John was on my podcast not long ago. And all we did was talk about his Durhamisms, and it's really hard because there are thousands of them. It's really hard to bring up a couple that say this or that, but the summary is that these things, I think, for a lot of people, rang very, very true as things to think of when life got difficult. So, and I don't think there was any shortage of that, particularly over the last couple of years. There have been a lot of days where you could just read a couple of those and get back to them. I think I'm translating like 50 of them, basically because they were all placed in written text or printed out at some point. So they have to be properly cataloged and organized so that we can represent them in a solid digital way. Uh-oh.
Oh yeah, I do that all the time. Dog is barking downstairs, and I'm in the wine cellar as well, so it's quiet. It's quiet here. You want to share any of them, or just a personal moment, an anecdote, just a moment between the two of you?
So I think that like a lot of people, I had I've been writing a lot, and you remember when you and I were writing for the now defunct iMedia for a long time. I think a lot of the stuff that we put out there early on was just absolute nonsense, and I was not me. I put a lot of nonsense out there. I mean, the early days of writing, right? In digital, you'd write 2,000 word pieces, right? And you'd put that out there. And for whatever reason, people would start reading this stuff. So, you just show up at various conferences and things like that. And somebody would want to yell at you because you wrote something and they didn't like it, or you were critical of another industry thing. And with John, it was always like he was the elder statesman. Or the elder statesman. And to have him even just acknowledge you was pretty impressive. And I remember when my book came out, I was doing the talks and the tour and all that crap. And I went to address our peer group at one of the iMedia events. And that's a tough room because it's a lot of very successful people and a lot of very smart people. And smart and success don't always go together. But in our group, there's a lot of people who are just really accomplished and responsible for shaping the digital world as it is. And certainly John was in that category. So he was the leader of the leaders. And I got up to give a little talk. And what he said to the group was, I really think you should listen to Kevin because he's one of the smartest people in the business. And I instantly forgot what the fuck I was going to talk about because I was like, holy shit. He just said that. He just in front of all of these people, in front of my peer group. And for somebody who struggles for acknowledgement, or at least, just peer acknowledgement, that was pretty incredible. It was a pretty incredible thing to experience.
Yeah, he built people up. He didn't break them down. He found a way to acknowledge, to validate, and to make people feel important. And everyone deserves to feel important, and everyone should feel important. And he took the time to always make people feel good, feel great about themselves. And that was something he did. Even when, as I said, discussing things that were controversial, etc., he was the leader of the leaders, and so whatever he said, you trusted, you believed it because you knew him and where he was coming from.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was another thing that was really astounding about John. He could relate to just about anybody, and find the best inside of them and help them draw it out. And I think that a lot of the manifestations of those Durhamisms would be people who just really identified with what he was saying in some way, shape, or form. And we have that along with our experiences, but this is his legacy is really, and I'm by no means I don't feel like I'm the guy that to be qualified to talk about this, but for me, his legacy is just all of those things. We have our interactions, but we'll always have those Durhamisms. I think we're going to make sure they get published in a very, very solid and profound way.
I'm sure, and if that wasn't already happening, it's going to be happening now. In my world right now, I would say we're going to have to make an NFT of that, but that's that's my own obsession and addiction right now. John might be just kind of rolling his eyes. One thing I'm going to do, and you've been on the show before, and obviously so was John, but I always try and find a quote connected to my guest or to what we're discussing. And I need to do this with at least one other person because of the way that it is, encapsulated. But this was the quote: "Never be afraid to try something new. Remember, amateurs built the Ark, professionals built the Titanic." I don't know why I chose that or what the connection was back to the conversation, but I just love that quote.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, but that's a really good example of how profound a lot of his Durham.
Maybe that was a
Durhamisms are.
Durhism. Maybe that actually was a Durhism. I've got to go and find. In fact, I will investigate the source of that, because I have been taking notes for the last 2 years. Clearly not very good. Let me see it as well. Now, if you're watching on YouTube as well, and and you want to join, come join. We're otherwise you're just going to have to listen to Kevin and myself, and who the hell would want to do that, right?
Yeah, just absolutely wholly inappropriate. I'm sure there are way smarter people that you could be. They're probably busy though. They're not just taking life easy and recording as you and I are. I loved his quote. Yeah, I'm just sitting around shopping for floor mats for my pickup truck. So I'm just gonna jump right in. Take some time. The thing that he said about having regrets and dealing with that, and I mean, there are a number of quotes, and I can't remember who said it, but anybody that doesn't have regrets is an asshole. That was one of my favorites. I'm not sure if that was Durham or somebody like Stephen Wright maybe, but those are the kinds of things that as we go back and recall our experiences, and we've all lost people that we really hold dearly. Those are the types of things that you remember. You remember in your interactions. I lost my dad a number of years ago, and the things that I remember about him are the things that he would say. Don't buy the car with all the options on it, because it's just more crap. It's going to go wrong. Those are going to be the first things to break. All that practical life advice stuff that he was the Jenny to our collective Forrest Gumps, right? He could explain things in ways that we could relate to them and understand them.
Well, you know what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take a moment. I will stick you in the green room for a moment. Don't go anywhere.
Right on, buddy.
But I will bring you back. But one of the things I do with my show is I always do a seated soliloquy, because I'm seated and it's a monologue. It's very profound, the copywriting. And so I thought what I would do is actually reprise that seated soliloquy. So you saw the clip, the 1 minute highlight. You saw the quote when he was on the show. And then now what I'll do is I'll actually read to you the soliloquy, because the soliloquy was called "Life is Short," and my goodness, how short is life? And so I'm just going to reprise that for you right now. And I'm just going to find a little bit of music that. Yep, that's what I wanted. Life is short. What the hell does that even mean? According to Alexander Hamilton, or at least Lin-Manuel Miranda, who played him on Broadway, he never expected to live past 20, and most people where he came from made it to half that age. Our life expectancy is increasing, and our children's or their children's generation apparently should make it to triple digits with increasing ease. So shouldn't we say life's getting longer or life's less short? I suppose when we do the math, 100 as a percentage of thousands to millions of years, depending on your position of creationism versus evolution, is still minuscule to infinitesimal respectively. So I guess we're back to life is really, really short. So now what? How about making the most of it? How about savoring moments like I got to do with one of my favorite people in the world, John Durham? How about rejecting the saying, no one ever said on their deathbed, I should have spent more time in the office? Yes, I said reject it. If you ever spent 1 second in the office that was miserable, just even 1 second, that's 1 second too many, in my opinion, and probably John's as well. Life is short, but quality of life is even shorter. Maybe we should be focusing on extending the quality to quantity relationship ratio, as opposed to paying lip service to a cliche that seems to mock our enslaving routines versus liberate us from them. So the next time you're in a moment, not having a moment, but in a moment, close your eyes, take it in. Attempt to take a mental photograph of that moment with every single sight, sound, taste, touch, or smell, so you can freeze it in time, immortalize it, keep it with you always. In a life that's already too short, the choice is yours, whether you want your highlight reel to be fleeting and short-lived, or an expanding greatest hits album that gets better with age, just like a good wine. And that certainly is how I think about John, and I think about those moments. I do close my eyes, and I remember every moment. You know, for some reason, I also remember seeing him in New Orleans just before all this craziness happened, our iMedia reunion, and hugging him, giving him a bear hug, maybe even being a little bit overbearing. And he was so brittle and he was so bony. I almost felt like I was going to break him, that I hugged him so hard. But I remember the hug. For some reason, I didn't get a photograph. I should have. I don't have a photo of the two of us together from that moment. But I have a photograph of him in my mind, which is so much more powerful than a JPEG or a PNG or a selfie with filter or without filter. I want to talk a little bit about also the moment when I met him. Kelly Burke is here, and she said, "Love this, Joseph." Amy is here. She said, "So happy to hear both of you speaking. Keep going. You guys should come on. This is not about me or Kevin. So Kelly, Amy, Cecilia, stop breaking my heart. Come on the show, and talk about your moment. That's the URL. I just want to talk about when I met him, and Kevin, I'll bring you back as well. So my moment, at least the moment that I remember and I savor, was my very first iMedia. And I was director of interactive media at TBWA Chiat Day, and I was like a media professional's backside. And I'm sure most of you watching would agree. I wasn't even a media person. Suddenly I'm running the media department, and here I am at this conference, boondoggle. I'm in this conference, and everyone is fawning over me, and the tchotchkes, and I felt so important. And I was asked to speak on a panel. It might have been my first panel ever, but this panel was on creativity in digital. It was the token panel on creativity, because everything else was focused on left brain, on media, on analytics, on ROI. Today, the equivalent would be programmatic and native and AI and automation and, all the analytical side. And it was just one panel devoted to creativity. And I was on it along with 3 other people, Arthur Chan, Scott Witt, and John Durham. And in many respects, I don't know if the others felt it, but I felt this kinship, this, brotherhood, or, would have been brother and sisterhood if there'd been at least one woman on the panel. I wish there had been. But it was the 4 of us against the world. That's how I felt. I stayed in contact, and I still to this day feel the connection, even though Arthur, myself, and Scott and myself have distance, but we always sometimes connect and say nice things to each other or about each other on social media. But John and I, that connection stayed the same and stayed strong. And he always was my creative partner in crime, my muse. That was my first moment when I met John, or at least that moment that bonded us and connected us forever. Kevin, I'm bringing you back. Do you remember your first moment meeting John, or maybe just a lasting, or a moment that is strongest for you in terms of your connection?
I mean, there are a lot, and I can't stand people who plug their own crap, but it was a very lengthy conversation on my podcast, and we were talking about going through exceptionally difficult times in our lives, and how he handled it. And to the letter, I think he knew a lot more about this particular situation than he was kind of letting on, because either that he was, and this is possible too, he was just really relating in a very close way. But he and I had a couple of very close mutual friends who had been through very, very similar difficult and challenging circumstances, and we just talked about how you can let it go, and how you have to, in order to move on with your life, and in order to be to have this level of clarity. And he had a way of just being able to help you walk through that, and he did it. It was very emotional, and he did it on my podcast. and like in those moments, and I've had people shoot me emails about it and just say, obviously this was an incredibly difficult, incredibly challenging time for you, and the way you guys talked it through was exceptionally helpful. I mean, you don't get that in a lot of industry discussions, but that was a big one. And I love the reference to creativity. I think I was there for that. In digital, everything was about performance and what have you done for me lately, and direct attribution and last click attribution. And one of John's recent and final tweets, and he went on about this quite a bit, was the strategic void that we're all living in. And we could have a completely separate conversation about that. But part of that strategic void is the creative void that existed, and probably to an extent still does exist in the business.
And the thing about John was there was never that personal glory. He never did anything or said anything for his own, edification, for his own validation. He really was selfless in that regard. That doesn't mean he was an angel and a saint, or he'd get pissed off or he'd get upset about things that he does, that he felt very strongly about. Politics was a big part of that, and we certainly shared many conversations and viewpoints. And I see Cecilia is in the background. I'm bringing her on. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. Welcome to our. I also remember just that New Orleans, just the moments that we had together. We all had together, being a family together again. It was just very, very special. What I'm going to, first of all, how are you now? John has brought us together today, which is kind of awesome.
It's wonderful that he brought us together, and it's so nice to just to take a moment to pause and think about him, because I think that's what was so beautiful about John, is that he took the time for us. And I always felt like, and I wish I was better at this myself, but I always felt like I was really important when I was in his presence. He made you, he stopped and looked in your eyes, and it's hard to do that. Sometimes I feel like myself, I'm multitasking in my brain and thinking, in one conversation and thinking about another one. And I never felt that with John. And it's something that I definitely, it's a good memory. And so it's nice to take the time to talk about him.
It's funny because, I describe him in many different ways. I describe him as, as a mentor. And yet I wish he'd really been a mentor. I wish I'd spent more time learning from him and and asking him questions and almost formally saying, "Will you be my mentor? Will you teach me?" He also, in a very weird sort of way, I say weird, but for me, losing my father at the age of 4, uh, men in my life become father figures, and it's not about age. It's about just the ability when I feel really safe, and I feel that connection. John was like a father figure to me. I never said that to him. I never told him that, but I always felt, I don't want to make him feel like, looking down on me, that meant he was old. But he did have a beautiful platinum silver mane on his head, even when it was short. But he was like a father figure to me, and not, many people I've met in the industry, but none that I felt so protected and safe around than John.
Well, he was definitely a father figure in the industry, right? I mean, I remember when I very first met him many years ago at iMedia, feeling really intimidated, actually, because I knew how much he had accomplished and how successful he was. And I felt intimidated to approach him for a while. I would see him and I didn't engage initially. And then once I did, I realized he's just this open arms, open-minded person. And I think it's a nice memory as well.
And Kev, jump in anytime you want. I know a lot of people wanted to. It's funny, like, what's so interesting is a lot of people, when I emailed everyone on iMedia, some people specifically wanted, said, "Can I join?" And this is what I want to do. Life gets in the way. If I've learned that, I've learned that life gets in the way, but it shouldn't. It shouldn't. We should always find a way and make the time. And it's not about quant, right? It's about qual. That was what John always taught me. It's about being able to just never have those regrets. That's why, that it was just perfect when I went and said, what was the 1-minute clip that I summarized our entire conversation? It was that little vignette on regrets. Looking back with pride, as we do look back on our relationship. And, I didn't know what to say after he passed. I was shocked. I was just shocked. I wish I don't know. I still don't know. I detach from death. I do, and so, like, how sick was he, and did it happen quick? I didn't know. And I just wish I had. I wish I'd known that there was but even when I read what Dave Smith, what happened with Dave Smith, I mean, it was very touching that every day they would text one another. And John had a way of saying when things weren't good, Dave knew. And that was the last, I think, interaction they had. And I didn't know how to pay tribute to him. So all I did was I changed my banner on Facebook to a screenshot of him on the show. And then just a week ago, I guess, I thought, let me pay tribute to him in an authentic way, in a way that has become my life right now. My life is my show, my community, that I started to help people. And in a way, I suppose today I'm helping myself as well, because it's helping me, mourn or grieve or pay respect to him in a unique way that he would appreciate.
And that's that classic narcissism is the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, like a jacket.
I just muted him, which is so. All right, unmute yourself.
Being a narcissist. Am I muted?
Yeah.
You were, and then you were unmuted, my friend. So
all right, I have a button up here that's the drop switch, but I don't know how much of that you got. But in a classic example of just like sheer stupidity with social media and not knowing what I was doing, I wrote this little brief thing about how much John meant to me, and here's a link to a conversation we had. And I forgot to put the link in, right? So it looked. I went back a day later, and I think somebody sent me a text and was like, "Did you mean to just have a couple things to say, or did you want to make reference to a specific conversation? I was like, shit. All right, well, okay, I guess I'll go back and add the link. And it's you think about stuff like that. What would John say about that? In the framework of I'm looking for I'm trying not to dwell on my regrets, and I think that was the meaning behind everybody has regrets, and it's okay to have regrets even about the things you did less than 24 hours ago, like a series of bad decisions that you made. You can have regrets just as long as they don't stand in the way of doing something wonderful in the future. And I think that was my take on the regret scenario.
I think there was also, with him, there was always an inherent natural joy. And in terms of moving forward, in terms of figuring things out, I mean, when he became as sick as he was, and through his battle, I just, for whatever reason, I just felt like he would just keep going, and he was, I mean, when I saw him at iMedia, I never thought to myself, this is the last time I'm going to see him. I just
and I don't think that there's any universe in which he would want you talking about how he died, right? This is the whole, not to draw a comparison, but Christianity, right? You shouldn't be focusing on how the person died. You focus on how they lived. And I think a lot of us that made it to that reunion got a really good chance to get together, not just because we got a chance to get together and a lot of us hadn't seen each other in years. But this is right, pre-pandemic insanity. And we were able to get together at a time when you would still see somebody you missed and you would hug them. And people in the industry that you would hug. Stuff like that. Now, if you're not getting your mask fast enough up in between sips on a flight, somebody's coming over and having a panic attack. And the world has changed. So I think, from my perspective, I'm just focused on how positive that was, how I would look forward to once again being able to do that with people, and particularly total strangers, because that's a positive way or a positive outlook on things. And I know how positive your show is, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I try and do that all the time. And I will say that it's just it's a little, I'm sad, but I'm happy, right? Is this going to be an Alanis Morissette version? I hope not. Here is David Greenwald. He says, "Hi Joe, sorry I'm late to the tribute. Just letting you know I'm here and listening to everyone. You can come on as well." And prevent Kevin from blabbing on anymore, and me from having to mute him as well, along with laugh track as well.
I love it. Well, I have to jump here in a second, but my computer's going to go dead, so I got to go find a place to charge it. But I'm going to continue to listen in on my phone. It's wonderful. I think for me, I'm going to look through the Durisms and find one that I can really make as a nice resolution to focus on, because there's so many great ones out there, and I love the regret one, but I'm gonna find one for me, and I think that could be a nice thing we could all do.
Well, Cecilia, I'm so happy to see you.
Nice to see you too. I can't wait till it's in person, like Kevin said, and
I know we will get back to
again.
the bear hugs. We'll get back to those bear hugs, and we won't be afraid to break anyone, as I was a little afraid last time. But take care, and happy holidays. These are crazy times, but I'm grateful for our iMedia family.
Thank you. Sending love to everybody. Thank you.
All right, Joe, I'm going to jump off as well because I have to go drive kids around the suburbs because that's my job. That's what I do.
You do that, Mr. Ryan. Thank you for being my co-host today. Thank you for hijacking my show and calling me a narcissist. But you know what? I expect nothing less.
Narcissistic tendencies, very, very different.
Yeah, I try and control them with medication.
There you
So I will see you soon. Thank you for being on.
All right, buddy. Take care.
So Mr. David Greenwald says, not my character, as many who know me, but I'm short of words about this these days. So better to hear everyone else and enjoy the thoughts and feelings being shared. No doubt, no doubt. You know, I think legacy is oh, well, before Kelly said, great idea, Cecilia. Wouldn't it be cool if we could adopt just one Durhism to follow for the upcoming year? I want to build on that, Kelly, and actually say that, you know, when we think about legacy, right? What is legacy? Like, what do we leave behind? Maybe I'll even write my soliloquy on that tonight. My show is going to be later live tonight at 9. And I've been thinking about what to talk about. But what I wanted to say very quickly was, so what is legacy? You know, I mean, legacy in part is really not being forgotten as well, being remembered and being remembered for the right things. But we are very short term, you know, organisms. In many respects, we've all heard about, you know, the fact that we have attention spans now that are shorter than a goldfish's. So what does it take to be remembered? You know, and beyond the hype. I mean, when amazing things happen and when terrible things happen, it's all over the news. It's you know, it's 100% the focus of the you know, the 24/7 365 news networks, and then it disappears, it fades, and it's gone, and we move on to the next thing. And I think what has been discussed today is, you know, gone but not forgotten. But how do we internalize the man, the memory, and the legacy of John Durham? And already on the show today, you know, as I said, if it wasn't happening before, it is now. The ability to take these Durhisms and turn them into a book or something that is physical, that is tangible, even if it is intangible or not physical. You know, like digital, like an NFT. Why not? Why not make sure that these teachings live on and continue to live on? And John probably would have wanted the proceeds of something like that, for example, if it is even sold, to go to a worthy cause. The other part of it is to internalize, you know, this idea, as Kelly said, one of these, each one of us takes on one, maybe adopts a Durhism and owns that. But I think a third is this idea of creating our own version of a Durhism, whether it's a Greenwaldism or a Burkism or an Auerbachism or etc. or Langism. The ability for us to crystallize, you know, to immortalize, to formalize our wisdom, however insignificant it may feel or may seem, or maybe even things that we have learnt from our friends, our colleagues, from life. They may not even be essentially ours. They may be something or memory or something that we share from someone else. So maybe that is a takeaway, which is to be able to create that regular post. These postings from John, they were just there. You know, they were like a good friend. They were, maybe we didn't pay attention as we should have. Maybe we didn't read everyone. Maybe we didn't comment on everyone, but it felt good just to see them. It felt good. It was almost a way of saying, hey, you know, I'm just pinging you, you know, or I'm poking you. But I'm just keeping that little connection with you. And it felt good to see it and to read it and to acknowledge it. Carol Walker's here. She said, hi, Joseph. Proceeds from Durhisms could fund a scholarship. You know, I didn't even have to say that because I knew someone would say something like that. Of course, absolutely. I think those of us that I don't even want to say knew him, that know him, would know exactly where to be able to put these proceeds. So that's the power of community. Let the community, let the family organize itself, and keep this not only going, but keep it growing. Grow the momentum, and turn it into something that almost transcends and transforms from what it originally even was intended to be, into something that is far bigger than us, even far bigger than him, but something that no doubt would make him happy and make him proud. I didn't really know this wasn't meant to be too formal. It wasn't, as I said earlier, meant to be about uh, myself, but I wanted to use my show as a mechanism to be able to leave a mark and pay tribute in an authentic way. And Amy adds, everyone takes a Durrism, and then on the anniversary of his passing or his birthday, we all post our signed Durrism. It looks like, Amy, you have nominated yourself to be the official leader of this initiative. I will humbly submit and second your nomination. But I agree. I mean, this thing, and the only way this lives on is if we ensure that it lives on, because, as I said, otherwise we just get back. Life gets in the way. Life gets in the way. And remember, according to that soliloquy, life is short. So what I want to do is just play out. I want to just play that quote or that little clip. This was the show that when I had him on the show, it was July 7th, 2020, and this was the moment, or for whatever reason, what I found to be something that I wanted to savor from that episode. The mind of man, his brain and nerves, are a truer index of his age than the calendar. If you would keep young, be cheerful, keep working, and love one another. A man is not old until regrets take the place of dreams. Do you have any regrets?
I spend absolutely no time. I think, regrets is what an incredible waste of energy. Because number one, the shoulda, coulda, woulda game. Why do you want to play it? You only get yourself stressed out. I wonder sometimes, did I make the right choices? What if? But I didn't. I don't spend time thinking about it. It's just not worth it, because you can't change it. Just a couple of people that I read, one of which is Thomas Wolfe, and his novel, You Can't Go Home Again, is so true. You can't go home. At some point, you can't.
Well, Amy, when you say you're ready, you think, does that mean to come on the show, or just ready to do the initiative? But the good news is that Kelly's going to help you. So Amy and Kelly, go for it. Amy said that Dave Smith is reposting these Durrisms, and sorry to have made you cry, but yeah, it's hard not to. It's hard not to. It's the power of video, right? The power of video gives us these moments that that allow us to, to look back and immortalize in sight, sound, and motion. How ironic, coming from the guy who wrote Life After the 30-Second Spot. One thing I've realized is we've got to make the time. We've got to make the time to record, to create content, to be creative, to think, and to be able to share that thinking with the people that we care most about. So thank you for all of those that tuned in. I know a lot of people will be checking out the replay on YouTube when you're not as busy, but make the time for the people that you love and you care about. Obviously friends and family, but realizing how many special people, Amy is here, so I'm going to keep going. How many special people in our industry, at work, people that we collaborate with, but we don't realize what impact they've made on our lives and how special they are. Amy, I'm I have to, you know, I was gonna wrap it up, but then I saw you come on, and
Well,
it's an hour, so go for it.
well, yeah, I'm just going to say, like, is there the diffusion of responsibility where no one's jumping in to do this? And I would be happy to sort of rally a committee to kind of create some structure around making sure that we do, you know, that we say we're going to do it and we actually do it. Obviously, I'm impromptu. I didn't set up my ring light, but I don't know if you knew of anyone who had been volunteering for anything, and if not, I will email the group and see who I can rope in to help.
That would be awesome. David said hi, Amy,
Okay,
and Jonathan Adams said thank you for doing this. You're welcome. I mean, it's important that we, you know, that's why I wanted to do something and just, you know, turn it around quickly, because, you know, I think inherent in what I was saying is we will forget and move on if we don't make an effort not to, you know, not to. And so I think it's important to, you know, just to like you've thrown your hat in the ring, see who else. I'm sure you'll get many people to volunteer and figure out. And the thing that makes total sense is the ability to take these Durhisms and not just, you know, in addition to, I don't want to say not just, in addition to posting daily and reposting, which I think is fantastic. Jonathan says there are several who are stepping up to focus on doing it, but they've asked us not to rush it until we've heard what the family wants. So I guess you know, I thought it might be, but you know, Jonathan no doubt will be in touch with you, Amy, and we'll figure out what else to do. For me, you know, teaching after every, you know, I really decided that I wanted to not only consult less, but because I don't consult anymore, I just basically have made a commitment that I'm done with that. You know, in my foolish attempt to be a full-time talk show host, but I also want to become a full-time teacher, and stepping in and following John's footsteps. You know, finally, without a master's degree, I'm now an adjunct at NYU and Western Connecticut State and teaching marketing. And I feel like, you know, maybe initially I always wanted to model myself on Robin Williams as a teacher, but I'm pretty sure that I would want to model myself on John Durham as a teacher and be the professore. So, you know, he will live on through many, many different aspects of all of our lives, no doubt.
Definitely. All right, I'm here to help, and I'm glad you're doing well and you look great. So we'll be in touch.
Thank you, Amy.
Okay.
Well, I think that is a little bit of a wrap as an episode of my show. You know that that it has to end with Chuck Norris to determine what he thought of the show, but most importantly, what he thought of the man, the myth, the legend, the legacy of John Durham. And before I go, I just want to say to all of you, take care. You know, hug your loved ones, people that you are related to through blood, people that you've married into, whether you like them or not, but also clients, colleagues, industry peers, moments and people that matter are few and far between. And as I said, instead of, you know, when you're in a moment, appreciate the moment as you're in it, and never, ever forget it. Savor it. Make sure that all 5 of your senses are intact. And that moment will live with you forever. So, Chuck Norris, what do you have to say about John Durham?
You are Chuck Norris approved.
I will see you guys. Talk to you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show, and if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.